This is step one of how to get your textile project started. You're going to start with a little bit of cord. I don't like to use a whole lot because it becomes a little bit difficult to use if you have too much. So I always kind of use about a foot to 2 feet worth of cord. I'm going to taper in the edge because that initial spiral, the middle spiral, needs to be close together. So the less material you have to work with, the better. So I like to taper off the last 3 to 4 inches or so. Um, Once you have that, you're going to get your string, and I use about a wingspan at a time. It can be more or less, it's up to you. And you take and thread your needle with one end. If you're using yarn, you use a plastic needle. If you're using raffia, I would suggest the metal. And then you're going to take the ends of the string and the end of your cord, and you're going to hold that for about, in the last 4 or 5 inches, you're going to coil that string to the cord until you get to the end. You want your coils to be tight and even. And essentially what you're doing is you're wrapping the end of that string to that coil so it's not going to unravel at any point. You're locking that in place. So once you have that all wrapped, this is the hardest step, is to get this center, and you're going to roll that into itself, into a tight spiral. It wants to come unraveled, so I will actually roll it several times so that way I get this tight spiral in the middle. If I were to let go, it's going to unravel. So what I need to do is I need to take my needle and I'm going to wrap this around that center coil, and I'm going to do that a few times so that way it stays tight in place. You want to keep your opening relatively small. If it becomes a larger opening, you can either try again or just roll with it. It's not a big deal. So once I have, if you notice, I'm going over and over again with that center and that outside coil, but I want to keep that held in place so when I do let go, it's not going to become unraveled. And then once I have it locked in place, you can see I let go. It's not going to lose its shape. And then I begin the coiling process and then weaving. If you need to add more string, simply get another wingspan. I'm using the yarn that changes from one color to another. And if you want to do a new project that's maybe you found some string that you really, or yarn that you wanted to use, you're always more than willing or open to start a new project. You don't have to stick with the one that you started if you don't love it. Sometimes learning the process, we need to just kind of work out a practice piece first before we can dive into a final, and that's okay. So I've added more string, I cut off the knot, and then I begin to coil so many times. If I'm using yarn, it's probably 7 or 8 times. And then once I have that, I'm going to weave that through the center. And then the first coil right after is the most important. I'm going to really make sure I pull that tight. And I continue to coil just the cord. And then after about 7 or 8, I weave through the coil before. In this case, it's the middle. And then I continue on.